Hello, I'm Johnny Delirious, and I'm telling you, there's no reason to be ashamed you have hepatitis. There's a big stigma out there, and that's a big problem because people, want to look at you kind of like a leper and everything, and I know what that's like. I'll tell you a little bit about me and how I recovered from hepatitis, how I got hepatitis, how I started to understand about hepatitis. Back in the 80s, I was running a laboratory and, there's over 480 medical doctors. There's over 340 naturopathic doctors and other healthcare professionals. We had over 500 chiropractors as well. But they did sent the hair in for their patients and their clients to be analyzed. And so during those days, I ran the lab. Uh, Before long, I became chairman. I was in charge of it. And one of the jobs was once we did the elemental analysis, they got the nutritional support and the vitamin recommendations based on the computer readouts. And I was in charge of all that. But what happened is toward the 80s, the only way I could get to work was to do a big rail of cocaine. Now, I never was a big drug addict, but that was the only way I could get to work because a cup of coffee just did not do the trick. I couldn't get out of the house, but a big rail of cocaine that would get me out of the house. I'd get back to work, and then those doctors could get the information, and everything was happening on time. Well, as you can probably understand, that didn't work after a while. And things were getting bad by the early 90s. Now, of course, just for the record, since 1991, I haven't had a mood altering substance. And I've been straight and clean and sober since then. I didn't have a drug problem. I didn't have a drinking problem, but I did have a cocaine problem, and I quit all that since March of 1991. Well, when I straightened up and realized I didn't have any energy at all, is because my cocaine, was giving me the energy, and then I didn't realize that I had a problem with hepatitis because the non-A, non-B diagnosis they gave me in 1981 turned out to be hepatitis C, and it got worse and worse and worse, and I just didn't have the energy to get to work unless I had that big rail of cocaine. So once I quit the cocaine in March of 1991, I just couldn't do anything. And finally, in 1992, early in 1992, the doctors gave me 8 months to live. They said I needed a liver transplant. They already did a biopsy, and the biopsy revealed that my liver was 96% scar tissue. They said, Johnny, we don't know how you're making it right now because you're only surviving on 4% liver function. We just don't see how you're making it. And we suggest a liver transplant. That's your only hope to survive, and you have less than 8 months to live. Well, I read all their literature and just decided that with only 5 years to live, even after a transplant, I just didn't want to do that. I didn't want to just give my organ away. I thought I could beat this thing a different way. If I can beat cocaine, I can beat hepatitis. So I walked back in and I said, look, I'm not doing the transplant. I just can't do that. And they go, well, Johnny, we're working so hard to save your life. You're going to die. And you're too sick to make these kind of decisions. You're just delirious. And so I just sat there and said, well, I know people that have recovered from AIDS and cancer and things like that. And they didn't have the conventional therapy because the conventional therapy could not help them. They were sent home to die. And so I just can't do the transplant. And so they just weren't giving me any choices, and they just kept fussing at me. And I started saying, when Johnny comes marching home again, hurrah. Because I knew there had to be another way than to give away my liver. I didn't want to lose my liver. So on my way out the door, she said, all right, Johnny Delirious, you're going to die. So that's how I got my name. And even on top of that, I had the bigger stigma of everybody telling me I was going to die. And that's the toughest situation. That is the biggest challenge when you have liver problems or hepatitis, because you can have a drinking problem and get cirrhosis of the liver, and it can be just as fatal as with hepatitis. It's all about liver health. And so the biggest challenge of having good liver health, getting over hepatitis, is working through that stigma where everybody is telling you you're going to die. Everybody doesn't want to be associated with you because they don't want to catch it. I really couldn't date during that time. I couldn't socialize. I didn't have the energy to do so anyway. So what I want to do with these videos is give you some tips on liver health tips. They're real simple to do because recovery is a lot simpler than what the professionals tell you. They make it so complicated and so insurmountable. I mean, they told me I was going to die and I had 8 months to live unless I did their liver transplant. Well, today, since 1994, I had no viral load or antibodies for any kind of hepatitis. And today it's 2011. And I'm so glad that I kept my own liver, because I've had a quality of life that I wouldn't have had if I'd gotten that liver transplant. I would have been on all those drugs, and even after 6 years, they probably would want me to get another transplant just to survive again. So I'm so glad I made that decision. And again, you always have choices, and you have to make your own choices. It's important to make your own choices. You may want to go with the transplant. You may want to go with interferon. It doesn't matter what path you choose. To me, what matters to me is good liver health. And that's what I'm here for, because over the years, I've learned a little bit about liver health because of my situation with the cocaine, with the hepatitis, and everything, and that's what I'm here for. So one of the first things to understand about good liver health is that the liver can regenerate, and it's up to you. If you have good liver health, and one of the things for good liver health, it's a real simple tip, is not to eat too much, and have smaller meals. And, my dad was a medical doctor, and he said, go a little hungry, Johnny. Eat more often in just little bits. And that's one thing that really helped your liver right there. But if you have any questions, I want you to please, down below this form, right here on this page, send me any questions that you have, and I'll have more information about good liver health as we go along and tell you a little bit more about me, so you'll understand exactly where I'm coming from. And some people call me the liver health expert for good reason, because I had no hepatitis of any kind today, no antibodies, no viral load, and I had hepatitis A, B, and C, and I was a sick puppy, and you can recover no matter what liver problems you have, and I'm here to help you. You take care of yourself.